Salford in the 1960s and very early 70s was a thriving port city. We were 30 odd miles inland, but we dug a ship canal about 100 years ago into the city and built a port. This port brought prosperity to the city, it brought jobs to the city, it brought hope to the city. There was a large community built up around the port of local back-to-back, two-up-two-down type housing. Salford was a place where people trusted each other, there was a strong sense of community, strong sense of family life. So actually it was normal to leave your doors unlocked. So we had a strong sense of community, strong sense of identity, and a strong sense of purpose as a city with the port being there. But towards the early parts of the mid part of the 1970s, the shipping containers came in more and more. That means ships got bigger. The knock-on effect meant that our canal wasn't big enough to take the boats. That left us with a problem. And we saw a decrease and a decline in the number of the ships coming to ports, so eventually the ports had to be closed. The knock-on effect for that was meaning we couldn't export from there anymore. We couldn't import goods to make things there anymore. It meant all the dockers' jobs went, all the people who worked in the offices, worked in the import and export business went. The manufacturing base dried up. Unemployment became a norm rather than something that in the 60s, there was no unemployment, so to speak of. Communities started to break down throughout the 70s into the 80s. There was a mistrust of authority started to come in, and it brought the city into a downward spiral. There was a number of organised crime as well as younger gangs. This brought a high level of crime in the area, high level of fear, high level of mistrust. There was a hatred of the police and a hatred of authority.
It was a no-go area. When we moved into a church building with a manse next to it that was desolate, derelict.
You wouldn't walk through it late in the afternoon. I mean, you just wouldn't want to live there.
If you're having something delivered, like a new television, they would not deliver it after 11 in the morning because they were in fear of being robbed of what they were delivering when certain people got up.
And we were petrol bombed. We had stolen cars driven into the side of the building and blown up. I was threatened with knives, guns.
The police came in twos and threes, not in ones. As the port closed down, what happens with the land? The water was heavily polluted. The land was made as a port. What else do you use a port for when a port is closed? So it was known for many years as a place of waste ground. It was known as a wasted place. It was known as a place that actually no one had a vision or a hope for. And so we started to, as Christians in the area, a small group of us, led by my dad, started to pray for the area. This is going back into the mid-80s, mid-1980s. He was a person who had a hope that the area could change. We would start to pray around the whole of the area every week and ask God to give us a vision.
We came to Salford 14 years ago, and at the time, spiritually it was desolate. I think the biggest church in Salford at the time was no more than 100 people.
We would walk around the docks area, around Odsall, around a bigger part of the city of Salford. We'd walk about 16 miles and pray. But God told us this: bless every church you go past. We'd had an issue in Salford.
And most churches were very, very small. It was very sparse. It was very, very hard ground for the gospel.
Churches were small and really isolated from each other.
And we lost a love for each other at the level we should have had. So we became competitive. Sometimes we believed the worst of each other. It's like a protection mechanism when you just try to protect your thing. And God challenged us. He challenged us that actually we were the biggest dysfunctional family in that place. On our watch, we became dysfunctional and sold it into the city. We had to repent together as ministers. Now this is a group of ministers across the city.
We started to meet up together, we started to have lunch together, go for a coffee together, but pray and champion each other's causes.
Really what we've seen is a culture of prayer that has unified the churches to the point where they not only have grown numerically, not only grown in size, but also grown in depth of relationship and unity, and been able to do much more together than was ever possible with just one church trying to do everything.
And as we came together, the city starts to change. God never created any such place as waste ground. Every piece of ground in every generation has a divine purpose of God. So what we do was start to ask God, what is the divine purpose of this ground? Another thing God told us, every place has a God-given gifting. So what happened, we started to pray to what our God-given gifting was. We started to research what we achieved as a city. You know, what's the legacy there? We had a huge amount of creatives, writers, artists, actors, producers, etc. from our city. We suddenly realised we were a city of creativity. So what do we need in the waste ground? Or what people perceived as waste ground? We needed a place of creativity to be built so our young people and the next generations of our great city could express their creativity and find a fulfillment within that.
Somebody called John Whitcomb, a visionary man at that time, he decided to buy up this land, and he must have seen the potential in it.
A businessman came up with a plan to build a media city. Phase 1, if I remember the exact figures right, was about £1 billion of investment. It brought a further the BBC to Salford. It brought ITV, which is our main independent broadcaster. It brought over 100 media companies into the very heart of the docks area that was waste ground, which is now a media city, one of the few media cities of the world.
In 2002, I became Director of Education here, and I was here until 2009. In that 7 years, there was an amazing improvement in Salford schools, almost every indicator that you can imagine.
Just the buildings, the infrastructure is now top quality provision for the children in Salford, which means they have gained higher aspirations and expectations. They used to feel that they lived in Salford, they would remain in Salford, and they'd never amount to anything more than somebody on benefits, whereas now they see that the sky's the limit.
The number of young people leaving school aged 16 or 18 with a decent level of qualification increased enormously. In fact, it was the most increased amount in the whole country. It was the best performing increase in the whole country over that period of time, out of 150 different local authorities.
That's a phenomenal change. That brings an opportunity to go to college, an opportunity to get an apprenticeship, an opportunity to progress in life with a job, not being unemployed. We've seen a change in the church from being a weak thing that was fighting itself to being something that's stronger and united, that's growing.
Probably in Salford, you see the biggest churches in the whole metropolitan boroughs, all of the boroughs put together, of Manchester, of Greater Manchester. The biggest churches probably are now based in Salford.
We like to say this is because the church came together and prayed. God honoured that unity, and we saw great favour for the churches.
You said to me, if my people will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, I will heal from heaven and I will heal their land. I think this is something very specific. We want people saved, we want people to grow, but people live in a land. We need to see people saved, but we need to see the land redeemed, the land changed, purpose, hope, the vision, the calling of God on it to be fulfilled, then people can excel in their life here on earth.